newcomer entrepreneurs, aspiring business owners getting started today can enter that market, and that there are more opportunities than ever before to do so.
And one of those thoughts that we have frequently is whether it's the right time to get started.
There's this surge happening in how consumers are willing to shop.
You know, if you've got the guidance where you know how to click in the right places in Shopify, you can create an incredible business around these tools at such a low cost to get started.
It's crazy. The e-commerce world is not just growing, it's exploding in popularity.
You don't have to be a digital marketing expert with a degree in marketing.
It's so much easier now for an e-commerce retailer to get started. If we're thinking about launching a business, there's no better time than now to do so. Welcome to the Dropship Unlocked podcast. I'm Lewis Smith, the founder of Dropship Unlocked, and with me is our client success coach, James Eardley. Now, when we're not recording the podcast episodes, we're running our own e-commerce businesses and helping aspiring entrepreneurs launch their own high-ticket dropshipping businesses. Keen to build your own 6 or even 7-figure business? My book, The Home Turf Advantage, is your blueprint for launching a profitable online store. Grab your copy at htabook.com today and let's get you started. Now sit back, relax, and let's unlock your potential with the Dropship Unlocked podcast.
Today, we're peeling back the layers on why now, perhaps more than ever, is the golden era to start your dropshipping business. From explosive e-commerce growth to unparalleled access to resources, we're diving into it all. Lewis, there's quite the surge in e-commerce enthusiasm lately, isn't there?
Yeah, it definitely is. We're seeing a huge shift in just how the world of retail operates in general. And I think it's largely driven by the adoption of digital technology. And obviously, as well, a big part of it is the changes in consumer behavior and that increasing confidence from all generations to buy things online now. So it really is moving from a physical shopping world. Going down the high street, you start to see lots of shops closed and being replaced with different shops that aren't necessarily selling physical products a lot of the time, to people now becoming more and more confident and conditioned to order online. So in today's episode, we'll explore why these changes have set the perfect stage for you as a new entrepreneur.
Fantastic. I'm excited to talk about this one. And it's spanned from having conversations with suppliers recently for our own e-commerce businesses. And certainly they're a lot more ready to start dropshipping than they were when I was having these conversations a few years ago. They get it. They understand why we'd want to have a primarily dropshipping e-commerce focused business. So, Lewis, to start us off, could you shed some light on the current landscape, how you see it for the e-commerce market?
Well, it's crazy. The e-commerce world is not just growing, it's exploding in popularity and also accessibility, like you say as well. You know, it's so much easier now for an e-commerce retailer to get started. If we're thinking about launching a business, there's no better time than now to do so, because there's this surge happening in how consumers are willing to shop, and it's moving to more and more online, which means that newcomer entrepreneurs, aspiring business owners getting started today can enter that market, and that there are more opportunities than ever before to do so. If you think about e-commerce as like a new city that's like being built up and developed, you know what happens? Like you look at just a decade ago, a city like Dubai, for example. I think I was there on holiday in like 2002 or something. It was fairly developed then, but nothing like it is today. As that huge, bustling metropolis town with different roads and infrastructure and sky trains, and like so much has changed and developed in that time that I don't think we'd now look at a city like Dubai and say, oh no, there's no opportunity there anymore. Because of the infrastructure and because of the adoption of that city by businesses, and everyone's moving there, and the tax advantages and all of the things that draw people to that city, I think you could safely argue that there's more opportunity there now than ever. And so it's the same with e-commerce as a sector, as an industry. Because the digital marketplace is continually expanding, evolving, growing, new infrastructures coming in, new software's being developed, it's getting better every year. It just makes it easier for you as a new entrepreneur, as an e-commerce entrepreneur starting your first business, to find your path and to establish yourselves, because you have tools at your disposal now that entrepreneurs of times gone by just didn't have. So the key to this is to recognize that these opportunities are available right now, and it's the best it ever has been right now. And if you understand that landscape, then I feel like I'd be crazy to wait if I was thinking about going into it today. Like, today is the day to get into it right now.
Yeah, and that comes from reflecting on our own journeys. I know that I wish I'd started sooner. I had a thought in my mind back in 2021 or 2020 when I first got started in dropshipping. And at that time, I was worried that it wasn't the right time. And I think it's easy to have those thoughts. It's probably what it is really, is that your mind is trying to slow you down because you're going outside of your comfort zone. And one of those thoughts that we have frequently is whether it's the right time to get started, whether there was a golden era in years gone by. But from being in the industry day to day, I can see how e-commerce is expanding. And I love that vivid picture that you painted of Dubai, because there's more people going and more people shopping, in Dubai and also in the e-commerce world. It means that there's opportunity then for more merchants and more traders to have a really successful business in that environment. So we know that the environment is getting more attractive because more and more people are buying online and the e-commerce market is surging. But what about the barriers to entry? How has that changed? And do you think that it's more accessible now for somebody to start dropshipping compared to a few years ago?
Yeah, 100%. Way more accessible today than ever before in history, because tools and platforms like Shopify, for example, being a prime one that forms the cornerstone of our business as a software tool, it's democratized access to e-commerce. It's as if when Shopify came about, the door to the e-commerce world was kind of unlocked, and it was like opened ajar to the world where suddenly you didn't have to learn how to code a custom website from scratch and like add all of these really complex systems together. It was like, oh, it's all in one platform. And since then, and the development and the growth of Shopify and the engineering and the new innovations, that door has swung wide open. And right now it's the most accessible it's ever been. Imagine the internet as like a giant toolkit, right? Once upon a time, those tools were scarce, they were expensive, and they were maybe hard to find. Now, every tool you need is just a click away. You've got everything at your fingertips with a few pieces of software, often free, because there's a free version that's maybe like got some limitations, but you don't have to start paying until you grow, like the freemium model, as they call it. Nowadays, you really can just leverage platforms' free trials to get started and to make your first few sales, often before you're really paying anything significant. So much lower overheads than starting an offline traditional bricks and mortar business. So it just reduces that initial cost, and it provides you a nice, safe environment, like a sandbox environment to learn, to experiment with your business without taking on heavy financial burdens of debts or huge loans or anything like that. Really, you can get a business like this up and running in a few weeks, especially if you have a step-by-step guide on how to do it.
And that was key for me, realizing that I could get started with a serious business that has huge scaling potential, like dropshipping, like an e-commerce business, without having the huge startup costs that you'd associate with a traditional retail business. Shopify is a great example of that. I know when I first started, I was amazed by how I could create such a professional looking website with just the drag and drop elements that Shopify provide. And then I was showing my website after just a few weeks to a few friends and family, and they were amazed that I'd actually built that and couldn't quite believe that that was accessible to somebody like me with no previous e-commerce or website development experience. And it is, and even now, that was a few years ago. Now Shopify have trials where it's like £1 for the first 3 months, or £1 a month for 3 months. And with that, you can build a very professional looking store. You can accept payments from customers no matter what type of payment they want to give you. And you can then manage the customer's details. You can fulfill orders. You can add products. You've got the whole suite of products available to you at such a low cost. So it just brings that barrier right down. And if you're concerned, if you've got no experience, it holds your hand in a way without having to go and take huge financial risks, without having to be an expert. If you've got the guidance where you know how to click in the right places in Shopify, you can create an incredible business around these tools at such a low cost to get started. So with these developments that we've talked about, what about the customer behaviors that you've noticed, and how does that make it potentially an ideal time to start a business?
Yeah, well, that's the biggest factor, isn't it? If we're there's no point accepting that the digital world has evolved as a seller unless the customers who are willing to pay money towards digital sellers has also evolved. And that behavior has definitely taken a huge shift forwards, specifically in online shopping in recent years. And I think that's been a trend that was supercharged by recent global events, lockdowns and people having to stay home. There was at a certain point no option but to shop online. And so because of that, consumers who maybe weren't so open to it before, are now way more comfortable than ever purchasing everything from daily essentials all the way through to high ticket items. And I'd say especially high ticket items, because those sometimes are the most cumbersome things to have to go out and find a specialist retailer for, or to, maybe your car's not big enough to carry the thing that you're buying back to your house. Like, those are the things that I'd say are more convenient for people to buy online, even than the basic cheaper stuff that they might be buying from Amazon. It's as if consumers have moved from browsing the aisles in a supermarket to just surfing web pages now. They're fishing for the best deals, they're looking for unique products, and they're doing it all from the comfort of their homes, usually on their phone as well. We're getting a huge surge in mobile traffic, or mobile and tablet traffic, where people are just not even going to the computer anymore. They're just buying from their phone. With a system like Shopify, then it has Google Pay and Apple Pay baked into the checkout process. So you just press it, Face ID or fingerprint, and you've paid. I mean, I literally just bought something 10 minutes before we got on this podcast. And it's almost too accessible at times. It's dangerously accessible that actually there's such a low barrier to entry. But obviously, as a retailer, as a e-commerce seller, that's fantastic. The game has never been more rigged in your favor to start than it is today. And according to a recent report by McKinsey, 63% of shopping journeys now start online. That's a huge number, and it really showcases the major shift in consumer behavior towards digital browsing from your phone, but also in actually purchasing habits and getting them over the line to commit to making that purchase.
Yeah, and if you just look inwards at your own buying habits and how much more you order online compared to how you operated maybe 10 years ago, and that shift is not going to slow down, in my opinion. It's only going to increase as things get more accessible, as things get easier. And something else you mentioned, the fact that 63% of all shopping journeys start online, that gives us access to people. If we can get in front of 63% of people, think about how large that market is. Of all of the shopping journeys that anyone has, 63% of those are online. And something else that's been democratized recently is access to the advertising platforms. So as well as Shopify that we've spoken about, we can now set up Google Ads. And on day one of setting up a Google Ads campaign, we can have our store at the top of a search engine results page. So if you go into a niche, we always use a similar niche, like say you start deciding to sell high ticket barbecues, and on day one you set up a Google Ads campaign and you want to appear for a search term when somebody searches for the product that you can sell. Well, straight away now, without being an expert, as long as you've got the guidance to set up that initial campaign, you can have your ad at the very top of the Google search engine results page when people search for the product that you can sell. And you don't have to spend thousands of pounds to get this in place. You don't have to be a digital marketing expert with a degree in marketing. We can access this now, and also the information and the learnings that you need to get to be able to do this, again, is more accessible than ever. We're in an information age, and the information that used to be a blocker because you'd have to go to a library to learn all of these tools and tips are now at our fingertips, and we have access to all of the information in the world. So there's some powerful changes going on, and I think they are pushing people to realizing that e-commerce is a fantastic opportunity. But beyond market dynamics, what we've talked about so far, why is having your own business now more important potentially than ever for your own personal freedom?
Well, there's a few things. I think it's always been important, in my opinion, to have your own business. I didn't realize this until I was probably 27, that I thought that, that I realized that it was really possible for me. But looking back on it now, I like you say, I wish I'd started sooner, because having your own business these days is like, you get to call the shots. It's like being in charge of your own video game. It's like playing a video game, but you are controlling your character. You decide every move you make, and whatever strategy you choose to use to complete that level, you get to do that, except the rewards are real. It's a real life stakes. And you imagine when you purchased a phone, you got a new smartphone, you chose what apps to download on it. You chose where to put those apps, how to organize them, which folders to put them in, how your device works, what ringtone it is, like the setup, the wallpaper. You got to build it and customize it from scratch. So running your business is similar. You pick what products to sell, and you pick the way you want to sell them. You pick what your store, your online shop looks like, and you make sure that it suits your needs, but also your customers' needs perfectly as well. And it's a bit like, you organize your house in a way that you want it to be lived in. You decide what furniture to buy, where it should go, which photos to put up on the wall. You arrange your books and your games or whatever. And it's kind of like that with your own business. You get to arrange everything to work just right for you. So starting a dropshipping business now lets you open your own shop in your way. You make it unique, and you can add your own personality into it, your own spin to it, and just how you like it. And as things change and markets adapt, like when a new gadget is released, or a new app comes out, or you come up with a fresh idea or a new angle or a new sub niche or something, you can always update that shop to keep it exciting, keep it attractive, and protect yourself from the uncertainties of things like the economy, the job market being let go or made redundant at any point. Well, that stuff doesn't happen. When you have your own business, you've built solid foundations upon which your own life can thrive. You can get the most out of it. And that's why running your own business is such a great idea right now specifically.
And those looking to dive deeper into starting up should definitely revisit our chat that we had in episode 26, which is actually where we discussed exactly how to build a high profit Shopify dropshipping store from scratch. If you are keen now and ready to get started, that's the first place that we'd recommend you to go to really understand the steps involved. But yeah, I love the points that you've made there, Lewis, because now more than ever, if we're not in charge of our own destiny, if we've got 9 to 5, if we've got bosses, we've always got caps on our potential, because there's only so much that you can sort of jump up in income with the job that you're in. There's only so much freedom personally that you can have. Whereas creating your own business, you're suddenly the master of your own game, as you put it as well. And you have that freedom, which nobody can take away from you if you are in charge of your own business. So, Lewis, as we wrap up this conversation today, could you summarize why you think our listeners should consider taking the plunge into dropshipping right now?
Yeah, we've covered some big topics on today's podcast, and I think right now the market is thriving. There are so many more people shopping online than ever before. So take advantage of that. If you are one of the sellers, you get to be on the receiving end of that huge shift in buyer behavior. And then the entry barriers to this market are lower than ever before. We talked about some tools that you can get free trials of, like Shopify. We've actually linked below a free trial for Shopify for 3 days, and then it's just £1 for your first month. So if you click that link, you can get started today for free for 3 days and then £1 for a month. I mean, how good is that for a low barrier to entry? So start your journey today, embrace the tools that are available, and pivot your life towards freedom and success as well. And if you're listening to us today, remember, the path to your own dropshipping success might just be a decision away. Check out my step-by-step guide at htabook.com to get started on your journey today.
Enjoying the podcast? We'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment or a review, and we might just feature it on an upcoming episode. Also, for detailed show notes and resources, head to dropshipunlock.com/podcast.
If you found value from any episode of this podcast, please take just 10 seconds to leave us a quick 5-star review on your podcast app of choice. It helps us more than you could imagine, and who knows, you might just hear your comments on the show. Thanks for being part of our community. Your support helps us keep delivering a new episode every week.
Now, let's answer a question that we've had in from a listener. So remember, if you want your question answered on the podcast, simply leave a comment beneath the YouTube video version of this episode. So this week, the question has come in from Steve D, 4358, and he has asked, how do you negotiate pricing with suppliers?
Thank you for your question, Steve. And it's a great question because the margins, the profit margins that we negotiate with suppliers are crucial for your return on ad spend or your ROAS in our campaigns. The higher the margin that we have, it makes it easier to achieve profitability quickly, and it lowers the requirement of our ad campaigns in the first place. So they don't need to be delivering such a high return on ad spend for us to be successful, because we have a higher margin to start with. So it just allows us to scale up our business more quickly. So there's a few things that I do personally that I think could really help, that when discussing margins with my suppliers, I find it's always best to approach it from a position that highlights the mutual benefits between the two. It's not them doing me a favor. If they understand that the more margin I have from them in terms of the differential between the trade price and the retail price that we're going to sell it at, that is our margin, the more that I have to be able to play with marketing their products, to invest in other things like email, customer support, things that will boost sales for them overall. So I always try to express my goal to significantly promote their brand and explain that that's the motive, and that with the current margins that they've given us, it might be a potential barrier to us substantially investing in the marketing of their brand and really growing it. And so we want to make it a win-win. We want to say, well, look, if you give us a high enough margin, we shoot for minimum 30% net margin, right? So, if you're selling a product for £2,000, you want to be making £600 in profit on that sale. And, the members in our masterclass are doing that every single day. But this kind of sets the tone for the conversation, where if you explain the reason why you need that margin, and it's not just greed, you're saying that because to run a viable business, we need at least 30% or more. We've had suppliers that 40, 45, 50% in sometimes during like sale period, or, items that they're trying to move faster. And if you can make sure that you're explaining it in a way that they understand you're on the same team, you're both looking for the same thing, which is more sales and a better experience for customers, you can do it. But it's about how you deliver it as well. I always think over the phone is good, in person is even better, because you want to maintain a positive, cheerful tone during that negotiation. You want to make sure that the rapport is there. I'll often go out for lunch with my suppliers and chat with them, and then like part of that conversation will become, could we have a look at a pricing review? And sometimes they might say, actually, we can't do any better on the margin, but what we'll do is they'll put together like an exclusive offer for us as one of their retailers, or like, as in they'll give us a discount on just a certain range of products. Or actually something we've done recently is a rebate, where they'll say, okay, well, if you hit £300,000 in sales for us this year, we'll give you 10% rebate on anything that you do above that, or on anything you do above 150,000 or something. So there's like these commercial arrangements that actually do equate to a much better margin, but not in terms of like a percentage basis on day one. They're kind of asking for some proof that you can sell their products, and then they'll give you a rebate back, which then does hit your bottom line eventually. It just takes a bit of time to get there. And over time, you show them that track record of consistent orders. That's going to give you more leverage. That will give you more of an opportunity to say, see what we did last year with, the 30% margin. Imagine what we could do with 40%, right? And so over time, your suppliers will give you credit terms as well, most likely, if you ask and position it correctly, which means that will help with cash flow. You won't need to pay your suppliers until the end of the 30, 60 or 90 day period, and you can kind of let that cash then build up and then eventually just pay them all in one invoice. We talked about rebates. There's all kinds of things that you can do to get a better margin from suppliers. But ultimately, it's about framing that conversation in a way that they get to see that increased margins is an investment in the partnership that then drives higher sales volume for them and increases their brand's reputation and visibility. That's what it comes down to. Always think, before you go into a conversation like that, what's in it for them? Don't just go into it being like, please, can I have a better margin? Because they're only human, right? They've got their own self-interests at heart. So you've got to make sure that you're playing to that.
Completely agree. It's all about making sure that you are standing shoulder to shoulder with them, making it clear that you're on the same team, and not just face-to-face locking horns, thinking that it's you versus them and who gets to keep more margin for every sale. It's not that type of relationship at all. Make it clear that you're on the same team. And it is a very good question, because it's important. Margins are so key in our business. So getting a good margin with your suppliers is fantastic. So thank you very much, Lewis, for the answer and also for the question. So let's highlight a recent review for the podcast as well. So a big thank you to Faisal for sharing your thoughts on the podcast. So Faisal said, Lewis and James, the podcasts are amazing. Hopefully soon going to start the dropshipping mentorship.
Wow, thank you so much for your review, Faisal. And yeah, really look forward to welcoming you into the Dropship Unlocked Masterclass mentorship program if you're going to be joining us soon. So looking forward to that. Really glad to hear that you've been enjoying the podcast as well. We know that sharing these episodes can spark new ideas and opportunities. So why not share this episode with someone you know? It takes just 10 seconds to do it. And who knows, it might just be the push that they need to start their own success story.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Dropship Unlocked podcast. We hope you're walking away with insights and inspiration.
To kickstart your e-commerce journey, grab a copy of my book, The Home Turf Advantage, at htabook.com. It's a distilled guide based on real experience to help you build your e-commerce venture.
Don't forget to hit the subscribe button for more strategies and success stories. And if you like what you heard, a 5-star review would mean the world to us, and you might just get a shout out on an upcoming episode.
And finally, thank you for deciding to spend your time with us today. We can't wait to bring you more insights on the next episode of the Dropship Unlocked podcast.